Yes, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. This is another edition of our Friday research training organized by the Central Office of Research, the Postgraduate College, and the Postgraduate Student Associations. And we are delighted to have you here. We want to welcome you once again. Today is going to be more of a practical session, and it promises to be exciting. We see more people are trying to come in, but then I think within the next 1 or 2 minutes, I will just quickly invite Professor Babajide, that is the Director, University Research Office, to welcome us, and then the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Innovation and Development, Professor Akonya Akinyemi. That will allow people to come in. So by 8:05, we'll go straight into the session. Professor Dusala, please, would like to have a welcome.
Good morning. It's another Friday, and then it's going to be interesting. I assure you of that. This is going to be participatory, just like what he has said. So we have to all contribute one way or the other. After listening to those who are going to present one thing or the other to us concerning their research, how they have carried it out. So I want to employ every one of us to, um, you know, contribute as much as possible. So you are welcome to this presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. DVC, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Dimeji, for anchoring this. And let me again recognize and greet my guests. I think in Nigeria we have a language called Oga at the top. Professor Jide Odu and the other directors who are here. Thank you so much for all you do to strengthen research in our university. Let me welcome once again, Professor Odu, to welcome once again to this platform this morning. And I think what the Central Office of Research is trying to do is to see how we navigate, how we tilt our research towards making impact, how we're able to do research with the right skills. And of course, we know that for research to be impactful, it must be multidisciplinary, it must be interdisciplinary. And so in trying to do that, we need to be able to understand, the different issues, conceptualizing research, and also to respect, the different lens in which we have research methodological orientation. All those in Greek apply research methods to what they do, those in humanities, those in the social sciences. So as a good researchers, we must be able to have a general perspective, of these different variations, methodological approaches to doing research. So I think this morning for me, therefore, is a good opportunity for us to listen to our colleagues with bias in humanities and math on how they approach research design. So again, to appreciate those who are anchoring this and also in bringing this, at some point also we'll be bringing people in engineering to this platform so that we see together that solving societal problems is not where we do isolated research. It's not where we continue to, push for our own research ideas from just our own lens. For research to really be impactful, we need to respect, orientation of other people and to see what we can learn from them. So that when we are building our theme, we can also have this understanding that other ways of thinking also can enrich our research so that it's not about unhealthy competition, rather, It is about building, research that is strong from a multidisciplinary lens. So again, I want to sincerely thank those who have put this together, and I'm also here to learn. As I used to say, please take your pen, at least make sure you have 2 cubes of sugar that you take from this. Thank you all, and again, welcome to this platform.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, I want to also identify and then recognize. We would definitely get to listen to him a bit as he gives his feedback on some of the discussions that we'll be having today, and that is Professor Akinsu Lore. Thank you so much, sir, for joining, and he also joined in sharing the flyers this morning. I want to say thank you, sir. All right. So, by from the permissions at the DVC and Professor Du, we have made a slight adjustment to the focus today, to look more into, to just practicalize what we have learned in the last 2 weeks, because definitely we didn't have opportunities to ask questions. And then, so we have about 3 studies that have been identified that we would be discussing. So we'll be inviting the researchers to talk a bit about what they hope to, what they hope to do with their study. Because we are so looking at the time, we found that we may not be able to go into the nitty-gritty of the humanities session. So we have shifted it till next week, so that we have next week mainly for the humanities session. And then I think after that, I think the DVC have mentioned also that we also look into the engineering field. So by your permission, sir, and by your giving indulgence, that we made this slight adjustments this morning while we were due to certain logistics updates. So to begin with, we want to quickly remind ourselves of what we have discussed so far on research design, and that is what the components are, what are the key things that we need to look at when we are talking about research design. And we have here, this session was taken by Dr. Mobolaji from the Department of Demography and Social Statistics. And we can see all of the components, the things you need to know and look into when we are talking about research design. And, it starts first with what your research question is, and what does the existing knowledge show us? What is the hypothesis, that you are going to test, and what are the variables, that the key factors that are central to the research you want to carry out? And of course, what approach is indeed necessary or that you found appropriate to achieve what you hope to achieve, and then you move to designing the research itself. And part of the design also includes the sampling of the people of the data source, basically. So are you working with people? Are you working with animals? Are you working with plants? And then, of course, you go to data collection, the data analysis plan. And then you mentioned and emphasized the importance of considering ethical issues, that are central to this. And then, of course, the timeline. You must also be able to look into how long will this take? How do you phase the project into different segments? And you must not also overlook what your limitations are. These are the key things that Professor Mobolaji mentioned as components. Another thing that he also pointed out in guiding our research questions, and we are emphasizing this because it's going to be what all of us will be talking about within the next, in the next section of this, which we get to in about 5 minutes. It is that we will be inviting all of us to co-design a study, and we have our professors here to weigh in and then advise and then guide in situations where it is observed or suspected that we are not getting it right, because we want to be sure that beyond all of the English, beyond all the terminologies, we understand what this means or translates to in actual, research, in a actual research scenario. So I think in designing the research questions that are central is you are asking what is happening. If it is a descriptive question, if you're comparing, you're looking into how do groups differ. If it is correlational, you're looking into what is the relationship. And then if it is causal, you're looking into why does it happen. And then we have quantitative designs, and that is the experimental, quasi-experimental, the longitudinal, the case study, case control, and cross-sectional. And then for the qualitative, we have the phenomenology, ethnography, grounded theory, case study, and then we also have the mixed method that integrates all of the, both quantitative and qualitative. Again, we also have some emerging methodologies that we're introduced to, like the digital phenotyping, the synthetic control methods, targeted maximum likelihood estimation, agent-based modeling, and citizen science. So these are some of the things we have learned. And then, of course, when you are choosing your appropriate design, these are the key questions that we're expected to ask. And we are running through this because we'll try to design now, and we'll be inviting people within the audience to contribute and then to answer and respond and join us in designing this. So first, there is the question type is to say, does it exist? Does X, that is the issue you're trying to find out, or whatever, does it exist? Then what is the pattern? That is description. Then if you're looking into association, is it related? And then if you look at the session where they discussed on the design implication, you can see. So if you are looking into the existence of a thing, you're going to be studying adopting an exploratory approach that is often qualitative and, of course, descriptive. And then if you're looking into what is the pattern, then you're looking into cross-sectional, that is, how does this happen over time? So survey, cross-sectional, ethnography, these are options. And then of association, if you're trying to look into association, is X related to Y? You're going to be adopting the observational, that is cohort, case control, cross-sectional. And then if you're going to be looking into causation, what causes what? We'll be adopting the experimental or quasi-experimental option. And if you're looking into how does X cause Y, that is mechanism, we'll be adopting mixed methods, mediation analysis, and often, of course, qualitative approach in some cases. And then if you're evaluating an intervention or what has the impact of something that has been carried out, that is where the RCT, the quasi-experimental, and the realist evaluation comes in. And finally, if you are hoping to predict, if you're trying to say in the next 10 or 50 years, this is what things are going to look like, this is what is going to happen, or if if a particular phenomenon continues along its current trajectory, this is what is going to become. These are the likelihood of what will happen. Then definitely we'll be adopting the longitudinal approach. And of course, due to advancements in technology, there's also the machine learning approach where you enter all of the information into the machine, and then it can predict how things are going to be like. These methods, even though they've been listed here, are applicable across fields, and they have been adapted in different areas. Even in the current World Cup, for instance, people are using machine to determine who is likely to win based on certain data that is common to all of the countries that are playing the match. And that information is, some people use it to bet ahead and say, and wager and say, if this country wins, if these things are, if these conditions are the same, then this is likely the kind of country that will win. So I'm using that as an example because that's a contemporary issue. And then we also learned about epidemiological studies, and then we were introduced to the observational and intervention studies. And of course, the way the studies are designed are also highlighted here. This was taken last week by Dr. Barua from the Fort Hare University in South Africa, and he told us that observational studies, can be descriptive or analytical, and then he he gave us examples and scenarios of the single case series, cross-sectional, and then for the analytical, we have the ecological studies, cross-sectional, case control cohort, and then he demonstrated the prospective and retrospective cohort. And of course, the second one, which is the experimental studies, that is before and after the study, what happens, it evaluates an intervention within a particular frame, but time is central to that. And then, of course, the quasi-experimental and the randomized control trial. Basically, you can see how both fit into each other. That is the session by Dr. Mobolaji and the session by Dr. Barua. Now, let's design together. So how this is going to work is that we will be inviting very quickly some people to talk. They'll just introduce their studies to us very, very quickly. They will tell us what the title of their study is, and then what their objectives are, and we will then ask questions. So the questions will begin with what are the research questions? We'll start with the research question based on looking at the objectives. What do we think the research questions are? And then what approaches do we think would be most effective to gather these kind of data? And we have curated the list to be very interdisciplinary. So we have studies in the public health field. We have one in agricultural science field, and then we have one in the social sciences. So, and beautifully for us today, we have three strong professors in that field. We have Professor Akinsulore, we have Professor Old Babajide Odu, and of course our Oga Babata himself, Professor the DBC, Professor Akande Akiemi, who would weigh in occasionally when we respond and there is a gap in what we are identifying. So to begin with, I want to invite Catherine Emakbo. Can we make Catherine a co-host, please?
I think she's trying to join.
You said?
I think she's trying to join from my internet.
Oh, all right. Okay, so then let's move to the second group, the second one, which is the study in agriculture. So let's invite Efe Ogene Narube to talk briefly about his study, and that is for the in agriculture. So we are going to. So the way it will go, as we have mentioned earlier, is that you will tell us your title, tell us what you're trying to achieve with it, and try not to tell us what you have done yet until we have gotten feedback from people. So participants, what we want from you is, as you're looking at the screen, as you're listening to what the researcher is trying to do, can you try to design or to suggest what steps they should take in designing this kind of research? And please use the chat. If you'd like to speak, you can use the raise hand icon, and then we would invite you to speak. You don't have to say everything. You could just say one of the steps you think they will take. Of course, we'll guide with questions, but you may still feel free to write and then suggest whatever it is you think. It is an open session, so all of us are the speakers today. So, Efe, please, over to you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Well, I'm sorry, I'm quickly going to request that because I was having network issues. I just came back on now. If you could go over the things I need to talk on, so I don't speak outside of context.
Oh, thank you. Will just tell us about the title. It's already on the screen, and then your objectives, basically what you're trying to do with your study. That's
Okay.
all. But try not to tell us what you have done.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Ifeogene Inarwe. I'm currently doing my postgraduate studies under the Department of Soil Science and Land Management, Faculty of Agric. I'm carrying out a research on characterization of organic and inorganic based calcined phosphate rock fertilizers, phosphorus release kinetics, and its effects on soil biological quality and maize yield. So the primary objective is to characterize raw phosphate rock and also using different organic materials, right, and mineral materials. We also would determine the rate of release using the kinetic release test, and then we're evaluating its effect on biological quality, the microbiological life in the soil actively, but checking for soil enzyme activities. And also we are investigating how well it will impact the production of crop, specifically using maize as our primary crop for the experiment.
All right. So thank you. Very quickly, we'll be asking questions now. We want to talk about the questions basically that you think should guide the design of this study. What type of study is it, first of all? Who we want suggestions before we invite Ife to tell us what type of study he thinks it is. Suggestions in the chat, please. What type of study? So to make it easier, we're going to type in some of the questions we should answer. So once somebody presents their work, you tell us what type of studies and what questions do you think would guide that kind of study. And remember how we did the design with the question earlier. If it's exploratory, does X exist? If it is comparative, what's the difference between X and Y? So looking at this, how do we think this study, what are the key questions and what type of study do we think this is? What is the key, central question? So one of the things we're going to find out with this is that these studies are, even though people are in the, are in the Greek sciences or they're in the core sciences or the core humanities, we're going to find out that we all meet somewhere in this same stratosphere called research. All of us meet, and the studies and what we carry out and how we carry them out have one guiding principle, which is good research, good questions, and then scientific methods, scientific approach to carrying them out. So basically, let's have comments. Please help us monitor the YouTube in case there are people who also are responding to us on YouTube, and then we can read what they say. So while we wait, please, Ife, we'd like to know amongst the different types of research design that we have listed, do you think your study falls into any? Let me come there. Here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely falls into.
Which one? So can you tell us which?
So it will be the first.
That is, it's an exploratory study.
Yes.
So, and this tells us, so can you explain how it is exploratory, basically, using the same logic using the logic, of what we have written here. What are you trying to investigate? And then just tell us how it is exploratory, basically.
Okay. So it's more like we are setting out to develop a fertilizer, and a fertilizer, specifically a phosphate-based fertilizer, using comparing what's already existing, and also trying to develop one that would make it better or enhance what we currently already have on ground. So it is more like this is not a pioneering, groundbreaking experiment, so to speak. It is more like standing on the shoulders of what others has done, and also looking for ways to make it better. So in that way, we are exploring what already is in research that people have worked on before, and also looking for ways to contribute to that knowledge and make things better. So.
All right, thank you. Professor Odessa, would like you to weigh in what are your feedback on what our speaker have said, basically, on this type of study. He said it is exploratory and that they are trying to look into what exists within a particular component, building on what people have done, trying to create something new from what already exists. And then they are building basically on what has experienced in the past. So, sir, what are your reviews? What are your feedback? What do you think? And what would you advise, basically, if you want to do this kind of study, being a professor in the field yourself? Professor, sir? Oh, okay. We have a hand. I think sorry, sir, before we call you, I want to invite Wale to unmute and then to talk. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for this session. Yes. Yes. My name is Wale Mbolaji.
All right, sir. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Yes, it's deliberate. Thank you, sir. So the way I look at some of the objectives.
Yes, sir.
Especially the third and the fourth objectives. The third says you want to evaluate the effects of the carcinated something. Sorry, I'm having. Okay, yes, on soil biological quality by assessing soil enzyme activities, and then the third. Last is saying you want to investigate the effects of the carcinated PR on phosphorus uptake. Some of us, we are layman to this field, but then we can still provide some. So with what I'm looking at, if you're going to look at how that, I don't know what the chemical is or what the substance is, phosphorus or whatever. So how it impacts the growth and yield of maize, that means you want to add it maybe to the soil, and you want to compare it to another maybe substance or another set of soil. So if you are going to do that justifiably, you are going to have a case control study. I mean, rather, did I say case control? You're going to have an experimental study. Okay, it's a fertilizer. It's going to be an experimental study. And because it's already indicating causation here. So whether the fertilizer is going to increase growth and yield, and for you to determine that, or what amount of yield, what amount of growth, you need to compare it with maybe the traditional or the status quo. So it's like indicating a causation here. So I'm not seeing it as being purely exploratory. You want to see the effect of that fertilizer. So you might need to make some control, something to compare with, to now see that, okay, this fertilizer, it brings this level of growth, this level of, exploratory and experimental. Okay, good. So that's what I look at. Like randomization, if you cannot randomize, you can do a quasi-experimental. And with quasi, it's not all the quasi-experimental that you have to have two groups. Sometimes you may have the same. You look at before and after, and also it involves you observing the growth yield over time. So it's not something you can achieve with cross-sectional. It's not once. You have to observe it, apply it, and then see the effect. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, so we have learned, or we are seeing now that it can have more than one, design within the same study. So even if there is the intention to explore, there's also, you could also bring in or incorporate the another study into it. So basically another design into it. So now we have both exploratory and experimental in the same study. And this is one thing that one of this session is hoping to show us. And we have Dr. Ifeolu Oglowo, who says that the study aims to determine the rate of phosphate release, evaluate its effects, and investigate effects on the crop. This focuses on cause and effect relationship, is characteristic of an experimental study. So, Ife, would you want to tell us some of the steps you've taken, and then we listen, and then be able to confirm, some of these things we have learned or heard about these design suggestions?
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the contributions and the comments. So far,
Yeah.
the experiment has been ongoing for a while. So the steps we've taken, we've done the initial propositional report, proposing what we need to do, what we want to do, done the research study, designed the experiment. So for this experiment, it has a few stages. Of course, we would collect the primary rock material, which is phosphate rock, that will be used for collection of the material that will be used for developing the fertilizer. We've gone ahead to get that, and then would go through characterization of the phosphate rock, which is taking that raw phosphate and going through some laboratory procedures and checking to see that the rock primarily meets what we want to do, knowing both the chemical and the mineral resource inside to determine just how well it will do in comparison with already existing mineral fertilizers, like talking about phosphate rock. So talking about phosphate fertilizer like SSP, and TSP, triple super phosphate. Those would be the fertilizer we are trying to compare our experiment with. So afterwards, after getting the primary rock materials and carrying out characterization in the lab to determine the current state of our rock materials, which we've done successfully. Then we will progress to taking that particular now developed fertilizer to carry out a screenhouse experiment. So this is a two-phase experiment. There is the master's level and then there's the PhD level. I'm not going to speak about the PhD level because it's not my primary research. So for the master's level, which I am currently carrying out, is being carried out in a screenhouse environment, a controlled space, so we can see clearly the effects of our fertilizers across the different treatments. So we have broken the treatment into inorganic and organic treatments. So we have phosphate rock being combined with a few treatments. So we have combination of the phosphate rock with a salt to enhance the solubility. We have combination of this same rock with some organic materials. We have poultry compost manure. We have biochar that it has been combined with. Then we also have the phosphate rock material that will be combined with rice straw and decomposed in the field for a number of months. So all of these different treatments. Sorry, sir.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to find a way to get it to pause. Basically, you have already mentioned the part we want to hear, and that is to show that based on what you are, the steps you're taking, you are telling us already the procedures that you have taken, and then from what the suggestion was, what do you think? Do you think this is exploratory? Do you think this is experimental? Do you think
Okay,
it is
thank you very much. It's an experimental, primary and experimental design with like what some of us has also mentioned. With it could also fall under the exploratory space, but primary and experimental design.
So thank you, Ife, for sharing your work with us. We wish you all the best. I know you are almost rounding off the research, so that is part of why you're invited. At the end, if we have more questions for you, please, we would like you to respond. But please, we'll move to the second research now because of our time. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ife. Please, let's use the clap icon to appreciate our first who was supposed to be the second anyway, our first researcher, Dr. Mobolaji, sir.
Yes, thank you, sir. Yes, before he goes, just
Right.
a brief comment. He said the situation was controlled, and that is one of the issues, in research. If it is not in natural setting, it tends to influence the result we get. So some of these substances, the fertilizer and other things that you did, I don't know the level of control you said you talked about. Is it exposed to sunlight? Is it subject to some changes? If it's exposed to sunlight, maybe exposed to some harsh weather or things like that, over time. So think about that, what effect it's going to have. So having those ones without necessarily controlling them, it's important so that your finding will be will be validated or will be a valid one under a natural setting. Just a brief comment.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay,
so
thank you,
much,
sir.
sir. Thank you, sir. All right. So let's move to what was supposed to be our first study, which is from Catherine Emakbo. Please tell us your study and tell us about your study, the title, your objectives, what you're trying to do, not what you have done at this point. And then we would ask people. So as you're looking at the screen, the title is being projected, the objectives are projected. Could you please type in the chat what type of study you think this is, within the category of what we have learned on research design? Which design do you think, what type of study does this fall into? Which type of design is appropriate for it? So that is to everybody that is participating, aside our professors who will be calling again to call and weigh in. So, Catherine, the floor is yours, please. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, I do hope everyone is enjoying the morning tea so far. Thank you so much, sir, for the privilege. But my network got cut off a little bit, so I didn't hear what you said last. So please, if you could please repeat, sir.
All right. So I said at this point, just tell us what you tell us the title and the objectives and what you are trying to do with the study. Don't tell us what you have done yet. So, and then to participants, theirs is to look at this and make comments on the type of design that is appropriate for this kind of study, or what category of research design, questions and design will it fall into. So that is the comment. So please just tell us the title, your objectives, what you're trying to do with your study. Thank you, Catherine.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. The title of the study, as we can see on the screen, is Awareness and Demand for Maternal Health Rights on Childbirth Experience and Intention for Health Facility Delivery by Postnatal Women in Ile-Ife. And the objectives are to assess awareness and demand of maternal health rights, to explore childbirth experiences of postnatal women, and evaluate women's intention for health facility delivery, and also determine the factors associated with postnatal women's demand and demand for maternal health rights and their intention for public health facility delivery. So the intention behind this research is to find out if women know their rights, postnatal women who have just given birth, if they know what their rights are during their pregnancy and during their childbirth. That is, when they were coming in for antenatal, do they know the things they were supposed to ask for at the hospital? Do they know what is even supposed to be available to them? And if it wasn't made available, did they demand for it? Did they ask? Did they say, oh, did the government provide this or that in this place? And also their intention. Does this demand, asking for it, asking for their rights, does this affect them coming back to the hospital to deliver if they are going to deliver again, or recommending the a health facility to maybe their fellow women to deliver? Or would they prefer home birth? Would they prefer to go to churches or traditional birth attendants? So we just want to find out, do they know their rights? Would they demand for it? And if they would, does it affect the experiences they would now have while giving birth to their children at the hospital, if they demand or not? And also, does these experiences now determine whether or not they want to come back? Does their demand determine whether or not they would want to give birth again at the hospital or recommend it for their fellow women? So that's what the study is about.
Thank you, Catherine, for that. Please, help us check YouTube for the comments, and you can just send it to me. Okay. Oh, Cordelia, sorry, you are messing up the screen with the marker, please. All right. So Abdelmumin Ibrahim says the suitable design should be convergent mixed method design. Are there other suggestions? Do we all agree? If you agree to this, you can use the thumbs up. If you don't, you can make your suggestions or use the raise hand icon so that I can call you to speak. I can invite you to speak. So it said the suitable design should be convergent mixed method design. So should I invite? Right. So yes, awareness and demand are two objectives in one. Yes, thank you. That's by Dr. Mwadiaru. Are there more comments? More comments? More comments? You can use the raise hand icon and we can invite you to just talk about the design, the suitable design for this kind of study. This is also a study that is ongoing and will probably be the last we'll look at today because of the time, but let's. Okay, cross-sectional mixed methods. All right, so while we listen or watch out for comments and suggestions from people, Catherine, your study, where do you think it falls? And do I need to, let me quickly go back. Okay, Prof. Dr. Mobalaji, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think, as others have mentioned, it's a mixed method research because you want to or have some understanding. You want to explore some things, experiences. Do they know the rights? There are all kinds of rights. So it's a mixed method and it's cross-sectional. So, but then how you will now combine the two, that is where you will need to choose whether it's going to be convergent, like someone mentioned, or maybe you're going to use a sequential exploratory or explanatory. So, but the way I look at it, if you use the exploratory, first of all, look at the qualitative, and then you can look at how many people are affected by that. So, because I'm going to be making some description in this. So, exploratory, and then you can now use your quantitative to see what has happened so far. So the way it is, because your last objective, you are looking at factors associated with, so you can do this, quantitatively. So not all the objectives, I think, can be quanti. There are some of them that you will need to use both, and some you will use just quanti if you want to know association. So that's just my contribution.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Mobalaji is like this, the parents who won't leave their children alone to make mistakes. So thank you for for helping us through this. Yeah. So Pomile Maria Olagujo says, I would say I'm political cross-sectional. Dr. Ifeolu Oglo says explorative and descriptive. Kolapo Sadiq says, I think it's exploratory. So, and I think professor already showed us that this is supposed to be a kind of a mixed method study, and that will include both explorative and cross-sectional. And then, so let's confirm, let's ask from our researcher what method she adopted and how the study was designed. Hi, Catherine. Can you please speak to us very quickly on how you designed the study? What have you done? Without going into too much details, just tell us the steps you've taken and what approach you adopted. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. We adopted the descriptive cross-sectional study design using a concurrent mixed method approach. That is, I did both the quantitative and the qualitative method together concurrently. So we went to facilities in Ife East and Ife Central local government to interview postnatal women in the wards, and mostly during their immunization session with their children. So they come with their babies, their new babies. We focused more on new mothers between 6 weeks to 30 weeks. We just focused on new mothers, except for situations where we went to some facilities and we had to wait for the mothers and things like that. But we interviewed mothers during their immunization session, and also the few ones we met at the ward. And also we did the qualitative session separately in some selected facilities in Ile-Ife. So that's what we did for this study, sir.
All right, thank you. So I have a quick question, and that is, how did you, and this is for you because that is for you, Catherine, because you dealt with human beings. So what ethical procedure or steps did you take? Remember that is also an important part of research design, the reporter component, basically, that we have been taught. So what steps did you take, or what ethical procedures did you go through? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir. Very important, like you said. So we applied for ethical approval at the Institute of Public Health and OAU, the Ethics Committee at the Institute of Public Health. And I also applied for ethical approval at the Premier Healthcare Board, just because I focused mostly on primary healthcare centers. And aside from that, I also took permission from the secretaries in charge of each local government, just to make them aware and let them know that, oh, we'll be coming to interview the women. And lastly, we took permission from the women we interviewed if they are comfortable and okay with sharing their experiences and answering some questions as regards the research. Yes, sir.
Oh, thanks, sir. Professor Mugolaji, sir.
Oh, okay, thank you. The last objective, yes, I could hear the the candidate saying, I mean, the presenter saying she used concurrent mixed method. I want to ask, for the last objective, did you, how did you get those factors? Is it from literature? Because using concurrent means you already have some developed factors. And I was thinking, for you to deal with that objective properly, you will need a sequential, explanatory. So you use the qualitative to get those factors. What are those various things affecting the women, demand for maternal health, and then now use quantitative to look at the associations? I don't know. Yes. So how did you get those factors?
I think that is for you.
Okay, thank you, sir. For the last objective, we, like you mentioned, we already have some possible factors from previous studies that could prevent women from coming back to the facility to give birth. You know, we have factors like cultural factors, distance, transportation, cost of healthcare, and so many other ones. So we also then did a qualitative interview to understand, okay, what exactly would make you want to come back? What would make you not want to come back? What are your experiences like? Would you want to come back, like if you were going to give birth again? And then we already had some we also used the theory of planned behavior as well to determine their intention for for public health facility delivery. That is, we're trying to know their perceived behavior, their behavior control, and things like that to understand. So there were a set of questions to know that, and also comparing with, some other factors like, okay, cost of transportation, okay, is it about health insurance and things like that. So yes, both methods were used to answer the question. Thank you, sir.
All right. So, thank you. Let me check. I think there's something in the chat. All right. So there is a question, and I think the question should go to our professors. The question is from Taiwo. Sorry, maybe Professor or Dr. Taiwo. It says, I think it's just one ethical approval a study need. If no, what's the minimum approval I need for a study? I don't know, let me see who should help us answer this question. Professor Mobolaji, sir, maybe we'll call on you and then we'll listen to ask Professor Babajide Odu, who is the Director of University Research Office.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think it depends. Sometimes it depends on the location of your study, where you're using for your study. So, for example, if you are collecting a study, let's say one in Osun State in Nigeria, and then you are collecting another study, let's say in Lagos State, still in Nigeria. So those are two different locations. So you might not be able to keep to just one ethical approval. So you might have to collect one from Osun State, probably Ministry of Health, and then you get another one from Lagos State Ministry of Health. So it depends sometimes. Again, maybe some hospitals have their own rules too. So you can interview people within the hospital, even if you have got an medical approval from somewhere else. So you might have to get one from them. So that one too matters sometimes. So, but another thing, if it's a national study and you have your ethical approval from national body, I think that's national, I've forgotten the name now. So if you got it from there, so that might cover you irrespective of the locations. If you get it from the national body, to get your ethical approval. So that's what I think matters. So it depends on the kind of study and locations of your study. If you are conducting a study just in Osun State and Lagos, I don't think you will have to go and get it from the national, review board or something. So that's what I think.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, so thank you. That's the end. Thank you. Let me invite Professor Babajide. First of all, I want to appreciate two researchers who shared their work. We had one more study left, but the time has gone, which we won't be able to go through again today. So we want to invite Professor Babajide for his remarks about the session, about some of the things we want to take. And then, of course, before that, I want to also appreciate Professor Mobolaji for helping us through our sessions today. Thank you so much, sir. But then I think I'm not worthy to thank you well. Let me invite Professor Mobolaji, the Director of University Research Office, to do that. Professor. You are muted, sir. Okay, thank you. You're now muted. Thank you, sir. I don't know, is it just me, but we can't hear anything yet, sir.
Hello.
Okay, now we can hear you, sir.
Yeah, sorry, I lost the something for some time, so I wasn't able to follow.
Oh, all right. So we have come to an end of the start of the meeting, but then there is a question that Professor Mobolaji has helped answer to an extent, but we want to also have you weigh in on that, and that is that the question is it just one ethical approval that is needed for a study? The question arose from the fact that Catherine had to obtain like 2 different ethical approvals and also permissions from the different categories of organizations governing these areas in which she was going to collect her data. So the person asked that do we need more than one to carry out a study? And Professor Mobolaji have weighed in to say that sometimes you may need to obtain more than one depending on the areas and depending on the on the contexts in which the study is being carried out. So, but then we want to hear briefly from you and then to also help appreciate our researchers and people who have been present today. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for that question. It's a very vital one, and then it's someone that is being asked, many times. And then I think there's an ongoing discussion on that because we have seen a situation whereby somebody working on trying to collect data from Osun State, from Oyo State, we have to collect different ethical approval, maybe from the state health board or something. It's something that is very dirty, but it's being discussed presently. There's a discussion that is ongoing on it. It's just to ensure that everything is synchronized, and then there's only one ethical approval that can cover every of the any study that one will want to conduct, even if it's going to cover the whole of Nigeria. So it's something that is ongoing presently. It's unfortunate that Professor Fatusi is not online. If she's here, maybe she'll be able to tell us, if there's any agreement on that yet. But I think there's an ongoing discussion on it presently.
Thank you very much, sir. So, would you help appreciate people to round off, sir, especially our speakers?
I want to thank everyone who found time to, attend this presentation. We want to tell you that next week is going to be more exciting. Just let's make our time to attend this and then learn from one another. So thank you so much. You're all welcome. Next week is another date.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. The DVC is in transit now, but he extends his appreciation to everyone, to the professors who are in, and to the researchers who shared their works with us. He says he's deeply grateful for, he appreciates you, and is encouraging that all of us continue to not see ourselves as people operating within a silo, but to see that we all connect. And most of the things we learn, even if at the surface value, it is not necessarily appealing to your field, it does not necessarily mean it is not important. The world is going very, very practical and very interdisciplinary as a result, and it is important that we pay attention to all of this knowledge that is coming to us. So next week, we will be, as the DVC mentioned, we will be focusing more on the humanities, but then it is also an important part because for all of the other fields, the humanities bring whatever we do to life. And so it is important to listen to how research is designed in that area, and then be able to know how we all connect and how we meet. So please share this link with people within your network, invite them to come. And of course, if you want a recording for all of our sessions, it's on our YouTube page as the OAU Central Office of Research on YouTube. Please search and go to the live section. You'll find all the recordings for this series, the ones we have had in this series and the one we have had in the past series. So please take time to watch some of these videos, but more importantly, share this link and make a date with us at 8 a.m. Friday next week. We will be here again, and it promises to be exciting. Thank you, and God bless. See you next week, and bye.